So if I need to name our class today, I would call it the woman, the serpent, and the trial. So let's recall, as we start, that by the purpose of forming the Garden of Eden, by forming the Garden of Eden, God offered Adam, he said, an alternative path to be very good and reach the Sabbath without ever living on real earth, exposed to sorrow and death. So this was a concession to Adam, give him a chance to go to the Sabbath from Eden without ever living on earth and seeing all the evil here. Evil means death and sorrow. So another concession was that in Eden, all that Adam had to do to win his trial was something very small, to comply with God's command and refrain from eating from the tree of knowledge, good and evil. So only one commandment. Eating it, we said, would be tantamount to violating the king's command, because God not only told him, but also commanded him. And violating God's command is tantamount to a sort of idolatry, rebellion against the king. Then, as a woman, the advent of the woman, God added another second commandment that they could now violate also in Eden, the adultery. And at the moment a woman was born, described as made or form in Eden, the next verse introduced marriage, and the same verse introduced also adultery. We talked about it last time. It's a miraculous verse, if you think about it, to present both marriage and all the 7 possibility of forbidden sexual relationship, all that in one verse. Now they have 2 commandments in Eden, idolatry and adultery, but from the 2 of them, there is a difference. Only if eating the forbidden fruit will cause them to lose Eden. Because Elohim said, the moment you eat of it, you shall die. Die means you lose Eden. And you live on earth. So there were 2 commandments, but only one was really major, so to speak. But we also focus on the fact that in Eden, Adam learned different level of sin. This is primordial sin in biblical meaning. You mean large? It's a enormous exposure, introducing sin in a large biblical fashion. At first, sin to Adam was, we said, like preaching his father in heaven advice, like a child. Then he grew up in Eden, so to speak, and now advice won't be enough. Elohim added a command, like a growing child. He needs now instructions, command, not just an advice. Then he became smarter, and as he gave name, his libido was exposed to the outside, and he was so smart, not only he named the animal, he also named God. He gave the 2 attributes, name Elohim, the YHVH. Adam introduced it in Eden. And the name of Elohim, and the verse said that every name he gave was a good name. That the name was God intended to. Now sin, because Adam is smarter, so sin become now not only breaching the father advice and a king command, but also something not smart, something foolish. that defy logic. It can detrimental to your life. So that's another level of sin. Now, and now as we ended last class, we said that Adam entered puberty, so to speak, in Eden, and he felt lonely, looking for a spouse. And the parents, or Hashem Elohim, formed for him a bride from one of his side, and the woman. And with her now, by her side, sin is going to take another level and higher than ever before. So now we're going to go into another level of sin. Now, as we go back to the text, and we read how the Torah now, having introduced Adam and gave him the name and so on, now the Torah turned to describe the spiritual level of Adam and a wife and a woman. What was the spiritual level at that time? In one verse. And it says, and I read it to you, and they were both naked, Adam and his wife, it says. So they were married. And they were not ashamed. So they were naked and not ashamed. Why? Why were they unashamed of nakedness? So there were several answers out of many. And some say, that the most common one say, oh, they were innocent like children. And children are not ashamed. But that doesn't fit the story here, because here he walked around with his wife. Puberty, sexual maturity is not a child. So why were they unashamed? They were smart, intelligent, young adult, maybe young lady and lad. Could be older teenager. Why were they naked and unashamed? So here come Rashi, famous Rashi, that every child knows that. It's a basic commentary in Torah, Rashi. And I quote to you what he says on the verse. And on the verse, they were naked and unashamed, Rashi says. They did not know yet modesty. And they didn't know good from evil. So they were, I continue to read, and they had already a smart mind capable of giving names, but they did not yet have an evil drive until they would eat from the forbidden tree of knowledge, good and evil. So what is Rashi saying here? That the sense of modesty and shame from nakedness would come to them only after eating the forbidden fruit of good and evil. So it doesn't come from a level of being smart, but you need to be, it's another aspect of good, being knowing good and evil, which means Hashem perspective. And Rabbeinu Bachye, the Spanish commentary, a very common, everybody read Rabbeinu Bachye in high school in Israel. So he says the following, I concur, and I read it for you. Not word by word, but basically what he is saying. Adam already at that stage in mind that could know right from wrong. Now he said, Rabbeinu Bachye says explicitly, Adam knew right from wrong, he was smart, truth from a lie, which is a feature of logical mind, he said. Otherwise, without this knowledge of right and wrong, how could it be put in trial? Now he continues. Knowing good for evil is not a feature of our logic. Our logic says right from wrong, but good and evil is not an aspect of logic. Good and evil, the Rabbeinu Bachye says, is an expression of our emotional reaction to something we consider ugly and repulsive. That's what he said. He said, for the merciful one, she looked at the evil people as not just a sinner, something evil. She hates. She's ugly. It's repulsive for her. She hates. Elohim never hates anybody. He just decides if you're righteous or sinner, but he won't hate you. This is an emotional reaction. Clearly, Rabbeinu Bachya says what concur with what we have said so far. So I'm continuing to what he writes. Prior to the scene, Adam and the woman were divinely rational. To them, at that stage, nakedness did not seem ugly or repulsive, not different from nakedness of other parts of the body. If you don't have a Hashem perspective, good and evil in your mind, in your heart, if you just have a logic mind, nothing wrong in being naked. So to them at that stage, he says, nakedness seemed to them not more repulsive than any nakedness of any other part of our body. Let's move to Sforno, the Italian commentary. He lived by the time of Rashi, which is about the 11th century. And he says something very similar to Rashi. And I quote, to them, to the human, at that stage, the act of sexual coupling was natural as eating and drinking. And the sexual organs seemed no different than the faces or the hands. So clearly all of them concur with the idea that the difference between good, right and wrong, and good and evil are two different aspects. So let us now ask. So if I sum up what all the commentary says, the major commentary, Rashi, Rabbeinu Bachya, Sforno, these are the major commentaries. So what they say in short is before the scene, they knew right and wrong, truth from a lie, which is a feature associated with Elohim, the attribute of justice. But not yet good and evil, which are features associated with Hashem. So let us ask now that we repeat, I'm going to sum up again what we just said earlier. So now that they are ready for the trial, so what they are put to trial, this young couple that knew right from wrong. So what exactly could they violate? We already said, eating for the fruit they will violate idolatry. And as a married couple, if they can violate adultery, once another sexual partner become available to them. So both of them can violate adultery. If they meet, if there's another male sexual partner, he will target her. If there is a female, well, a female has to be married in order to Adam to commit adultery. If it's a female unmarried, Adam could violate sexual promiscuity, but not necessarily adultery. So to commit adultery, there must be another male sexual potential partner that will entice her. So he's not enticing her because she's weak, or because she has a weak mind, or because she's vulnerable, or because women can easily be targeted. No, because this in order to commit adultery, he had no other option. So people took it to such different level that Torah didn't really mean it. The Torah didn't say anything bad about women. The only reason that he targeted her, the serpent, a male, because this is how he could commit adultery. If they had another married couple, so Adam could also violate adultery. So now the Torah presented the spiritual level of Adam and his woman. We understood that before the scene, they do right from wrong. And now the Torah presents the serpent. And let's say what the spiritual level of the serpent was. So the Torah says immediately after that, and I read it for you. So let's focus on what the serpent, what kind of level it was. We try to understand what the serpent is. And I read. Now the serpent was the most arum, it says in Hebrew. Arum means either naked or cunning, smart cunning. We talk about it's two meanings of the word arum. Both of them are right here. I read again, the serpent was the most arum of all the beasts of the field. So he's a beast of the field, which Hashem Elohim had made. And it said to the woman, had not Elohim told you that you shall not eat of any tree of the garden? I repeat, had not Elohim told you? Something is missing here. We know that in Eden, everything is Hashem Elohim, the two cherubs side by side, the entire chapter, not in the serpent words. He's the only one that, and then Eve, we answer him at the same level. But he's the only one that doesn't mention Yud-Heh-Vav-Keh. And not Elohim told you, of course, he was a serpent. That you shall, a serpent, beast of this field, cannot understand, doesn't know what Hashem is, even if it's smart. And not Elohim told you, not to the moment you, that you shall not eat of it, of the tree of the garden. Got a computer here, bother me. Okay, so the serpent is similar to the human. Ibn Ezra and other commentary and Midrash said it was smart. He walked naked, and he was unashamed as a beast, and it was smarter than any previous creature on earth. Now, what is arum? The verse says that naked was arum. Arum, he said, is naked, unashamed. Let's remember, he was unashamed, naked, like the other beasts of the field. And arum also means smart in a cunning way, in a bad way. He was plotting. Arum is not just smart. If I say somebody is arum, I don't flatter him. If I want to flatter somebody, I say, oh, you are wise, you are smart. If I say you are arum, it means you're smart, you're plotting something against me. Here the word arum is really cunning, planning something bad. And it walked on two legs, as Ibn Ezra said, Midrash said, and it was sexually appealing to the human female, the ideal enticer, sexual partner. So, and we already noticed that he lacked the perception of YHVH. You see it in the text because as he speak, he never mentioned the whole story. He will never mention Hashem. He always talk about Elohim, and that makes sense since as a beast, even a sophisticated beast, the serpent could not be aware of the merciful attribute of Hashem. Why? Because all the creatures created before Adam, all the creatures created on the sixth day, before Adam on the sixth day, they were all created by Elohim alone. Only Adam, only us, only we were created by both attributes. Actually, we created by Elohim, and he made a room in our hearts that we can admit or accept a merciful one in our heart. But the serpent, even if the serpent eats the forbidden fruit, what will happen? Think about it. If the serpent ate from the forbidden fruit, what will happen to it? To the serpent? Nothing. He had no room in his heart to accept Hashem. A spider, make him as smart as you want. Make him build spaceships, but in a million years from now, it will be terrible because this spider will never know what mercy is. He can destroy everything. So the serpent has no clue what Hashem means, what merciful one means. And that's why when he talked to her, to the woman, he has not Elohim told you this and that. He forgot to say, but he doesn't know that Hashem exists. But Adam, in contrast, if you think about it, because he being created with a room in his heart, it is ready to accept Hashem. If Adam accepted it, it's up to Adam to accept it or not. Adam could understand what good and evil is once he ate from the fruit. That's an enormous difference between the serpent and a human. Yes, they were on the same level now, both of them human, and they were a good match. They were all on the level, knew right from wrong. At that time, even Adam had a very vague awareness what Hashem is, but at least Adam has a potential to accept Hashem in it and become very good. But not the serpent. So what was the serpent then? Let's think about it, what the serpent is. First of all, what was the motive? The motive, the rabbi said, why the serpent attacked? What could he gain from that? Some said it's very common to think that serpent stands for Satan. And he was especially created by Hashem to allure them to sin. That's totally wrong. Many commentaries say it's totally wrong because we see that the serpent itself was punished. The serpent itself stood on a trial. He knew right from wrong. He knew not to lie, and he lied all the time. Everybody saying was a lie. So the serpent itself stood on a trial, like the human. But it is true. The Midrash says, a beautiful metaphor. Satan rode on it like a camel, and that beautiful depiction. I mean, Satan is in charge of is our prosecutor in the heavenly court, and he uses the serpent as a vehicle to maybe the serpent once he allowed people to sin, then Satan or our prosecutor capture it and bring it to the court. But the serpent itself is not Satan. In fact, Satan in the Hebrew Bible, in the Hebrew meaning, Satan is simply a prosecutor. It's not the devil, and it's not an independent force. It's simply a force in the heavenly court appointed as a prosecutor. He does his job, and he has no free will. So what was the serpent itself now? Well, let's think about it. There are many interpretations. We said it's not Satan. So what is it? What was it? And I read so many interpretations and explanations, but the best way to look at what the serpent is simply to see it in the context of the story of creation. This is actually, it is a continuation of Moses says in chapter 1. It's just few verses after that. So if we go back to the story of the sixth day, the end of chapter 1, just before the story of Eden, we recall. Now I want to understand what the serpent is. So I give you another possible explanation that makes sense in our mind, in 21st century mind. So we recall now that as Moses tells us the story of creation, beautiful story that can be validated by science, billions of years. We talk about it. And Moses said that on the sixth day of creation, just before making Adam, again, a day a day, capital D, is million of years. So just before creating Adam, Elohim first created before Adam cattle, beasts, and smart crawling creature. Just before Adam was made, the last one was crawling creature like spiders, ants, bees, smart, because social creature that can already create their own colonies. Now, scientists said, so let's see, scientists said there was a race. Which creature will develop smart mind on Earth? And now Moses says, let's go back to what Moses said. So at that point of creation, just before making Adam, Elohim made a stop in the middle of the day, unusual. Only the Tuesday he did it once before planting life on Earth. Now again, he paused, we said, and he made a midday trial. And he said, the trial, we know the trial means some animals are wiped out and some animals continue. And he said it was good. It means some were gone, some gave the green light to move on. So what was the trial? The trial, we said, God wanted to see, to decide whether to put Adam on earth or not, because the next verse after the trial says, let us make Adam in our form and our image. So the trial was to put Adam on earth or not, or to make Adam or not. So that trial, what does it mean, trial? God had two options: to continue creating like ever before, and to continue the line of animals that describe on the sixth day, beast, cattle, and crawling, and now allow the crawling creature, let's say the serpent, from the crawling creature. The serpent here represents this crawling creature, allow it to develop its own mind, and it may take another million years, but for God is nothing. So God could have waited and allowed smart serpent to grow, take over, to walk, to speak, to be very smart like Adam, but it will lack the perception of YHVH, of Hashem, and it will never be very good. It can be good, but smart, but lacking the perception of merciful one in your heart, you can never be very good. And if that happens, Elohim will not enter the Sabbath, and it will cease his work, abstain from doing any work, and in fact, as Rashi said, it would actually eliminate our universe as he had done to many, many, many other universes before. Mm-hmm. So this could happen if the serpent would be allowed to be alone and to move on earth to the south towards the future. It will develop beautiful colony, beautiful mind, but it will never be very good. On the other hand, if he puts Adam on earth, Adam could be very good because he has a room in his heart to be very good, to accept Hashem. So it was a crucial decision. So here, what now we understand what the serpent was in this virtual Garden of Eden. Hashem could, these two possibilities, the Adam, the virtual Adam, form Adam in Eden, and with it, the other possibility, the virtual serpent, and there are two options. In fact, if Adam wouldn't sin, both of them would arrive to the Sabbath intact, never living on earth. This could be a very, very nice option. And we know if they sin, then Adam will be put on earth, facing evil. But from God's perspective, when we want Adam to be very good, Adam can be very good on earth. If he fully comprehend now what evil is, and he allow Hashem to dwell in his heart. And actually, the verse says that now we understand what the verse is saying. The serpent was smarter, wiser than any other animal before it. So this now presents the creature that could have been developed on earth had not Adam been here. So what was then the goal? Why did the serpent, now we understand what the serpent was in Eden, what did it represent? An option to develop an animal that does not know God, Hashem. So what was the purpose? What made him talk to the woman? He said, not because it was frail, but because if Rabbi said, obviously, he lasted the woman. He lasted the married woman. Now I figure out that if they eat from the forbidden fruit, God will depart from the marriage. And if God is not present in your marriage, it falls apart. And and she will be available to him. She will fall a prey to his charm. That makes sense. So that's why it tried to allure her to eat the fruit, to make God, Elohim, depart from them, and she will fall apart to it. She will fall apart to him. Now, of course, we said this. She was his goal, because he wanted to commit. He was a male and she was a female, and that's how if he had a sexual relationship with her while married, she would violate adultery. Now, I know that many commentaries, it's almost ubiquitous to say that that the serpent had a sexual relationship with a woman. I have the feeling that's not the case, because committing adultery is such a filthy thing that I cannot touch it to our mother Eve. And not only that, it's impossible that she would stay married to Adam. If you violate adultery, you should divorce. Could be that some say that just being alone with a married woman in a room without her husband, that's tantamount to adultery. Fine, I don't know. That could be a case of adultery, but basically could be, but I think we stick to, as Rashi said, Rashi actually focused on the idolatry part. He actually, the serpent wanted to make her, so to speak, divorce in Eden. If God is departing from them, from the marriage, so that she can be his. Now, the rabbi also said, so why? So the burden is on her shoulder. The whole future of mankind is on her shoulder. What about him? Is he as a free lunch? He's just around there? What? No, the rabbi said no. Adam also was enticed by Lilith, the famous Lilith. Lilith is a figurative female figure, a counterpart of the serpent. Beautiful Lilith. So many legends about Lilith. And she was there as a counterpart of the serpent. She was not married to the serpent. Beasts are not married. God is not between them. But Adam fell prey to her charm. So what sin did he commit? Lilith was not married to the serpent. She was only a sister or whatever. But if Adam had sexual relationship with her, he just committed sexual promiscuity, which is forbidden. It's also kind of adultery, sexual promiscuity, but it's not as morally bad or evil in the eyes of Hashem as clear adultery when it's sanctioned by God. So there is a difference between what Adam could do at that point, having no other option. He didn't have any other married couple to engage with. He had only Lilith, so sexual promiscuity. But that's also filth. So don't look. I always think when I hear people talking about badly where women or men were pure. Oh, she did it. Well, Adam was also guilty of a lot of filth. Okay, let's finish today with the sin itself. So let's talk a little bit about the primordial sin. And I read to you. Now the Torah moved to the sin itself. And the serpent, the serpent said to the woman, "Has not Elohim said, you shall not eat of any tree of the garden?" He mentioned only Elohim. And the woman said to the serpent, we may not eat from the fruit of the tree of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim has said, you shall not eat of it. The question is, why did she use also only Elohim and didn't mention YHVH? Could be that she knew that the serpent couldn't understand what Hashem is. Or could be that she herself, we said at that point before the sin, they were not so aware of YHVH. Only by eating the fruit, they become suddenly aware of her. At that point, only right from wrong, but not bad. So that maybe for her also, she was the same level, so to speak, almost like the serpent. So they were a good match. Wow, this explains why they were good, potentially good couple, the serpent and her. And not only on this tree, Elohim said, she said, that mentioned Hashem. And the serpent said to the woman, "You shall not surely die." Here he completely is lying. "You shall not surely die, for Elohim knows that the day you eat of it, then your eyes shall be open, and you shall be like Elohim, knowing good and evil." What a liar. What a stupid serpent. I couldn't understand that good and evil is not in Elohim's eyes. He said, the moment you eat of it, your eyes will open and you will be like Elohim, knowing good and evil. He had no choice. He didn't know that good and evil has completely different dimensions. It's nothing to do with Elohim judgment. But okay, the serpent couldn't understand it. So here he's not liar, he's simply revealing, betraying is a beast-like spiritual level. So let's analyze what he was saying. You can actually, probably like 7 points here. I'll make it quick. Like, what the serpent is telling. He said, "And not Elohim said." Now in English it says, "And not Elohim said." It doesn't sound as harsh as in Hebrew. In Hebrew, translation should be like this. How could Elohim say to you something like that? How could you told me that he told you not to touch it? How could he say something to you to eat it? No. How could he say something to you? So it sounded like Elohim deprived from them something good, which is not the case. Number two, he said, and Elohim said, he completely was oblivion to YHVH. Number three, you shall not die, he said. You shall not die. He is a liar. He knew the truth, but he lied. And you shall be like Elohim, knowing good and evil. We said this is betrayal of the fact. It was unaware of good and evil. It's nothing to do with Elohim judgment. Now, the way I think Ibn Ezra said it, that the way he talked, he mentioned like knowing evil is something reward. You know, if you eat it, wow, you open your eye, it's beautiful. So you get some reward. But we know that knowing evil is not a reward, it's a burden. Living on earth, seeing evil around us, seeing animals eating each other, killing, death. So if we had not had YHVH, a merciful spectacle in our eyes, if we just were animals, it would look fine. What's wrong is killing and eating the animal? They didn't, had we been an animal like a serpent, we wouldn't have any idea that something can be different. But living in this universe with wearing Hashem's spectacle in our eyes and looking at children dying, animals, cancer, terrible things happen. Of course, it's something could be otherwise, could be corrected, tikkun. So it's not a reward living here in such wearing these glasses of Hashem, knowing good and evil in the world that is made by Elohim. It's a burden. It's not a reward. So he didn't say the truth. Number 6, he twisted Elohim intention. He sounded like Elohim feared competition. Elohim told you not to eat it because he feared that if you eat it, you will be good and evil like him. He worried about competition, something good for you. Hashem, Elohim told you not to, he feared competition. Number 7, and he took advantage of the fact that she didn't hear directly God talking to Adam, so she thought that touching the tree is enough to cause terrible thing. And the serpent picked it up, and she said to the serpent, God told us that if we touch the fruit, something happened to it. So he said, no, not so. And he pushed her to the tree. And once she touched the tree, and lo and behold, nothing happened. Oh, so God lied to us. And that's she accepted the serpent word, and she ate it. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was delight for the eye, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate it, and gave it to her husband and with her, and he did eat it. So if a gradual sin comes gradually. First she looked at it, then she ate of it, she enjoyed it, then she enticed her husband to do the same, because you know what? To being a serpent is infectious. Now she becomes a serpent. She enticed her husband. So a sinner, that's true. A sinner always tries to allude other people to join him. Now, what really happened? Now we come to the crux of the story. What did happen to them once they ate the fruit? So what really happened? So that I think we'll learn next week. I'll stop here, and any question? By the way, I forget to tell you, I know it's a lot of material. If you want to read it, maybe one day we'll publish it, but as Rod says, but if you read it, I have, look at 7Noahide, 7commandment.com, Noahide, 7command.com, and look at, there are several sections there. Look for the Noahide, for classes for Noahide, for Genesis, and you will see the extra of our discussion there in written, so you can go over it and digest it. I know it's a lot of material, and I speak, and you have nothing is written here, and it can evaporate from your mind. Okay, any question?